Good evening, students. Welcome to our GST subject, something which is very happening nowadays, something most talked about. Regularly, you keep on hearing something or the other about GST. The government has done some changes. Somebody has given some statement. So many things going on in GST parallelly, right? And between all this, you as a student are always facing the challenge of studying this ever changing law. And that is a challenge also, but I'll say that is also the beauty of a CA, professional like us. It is we only, I believe, who are the one who have to keep relearning, unlearning. And let me tell you, when you practice as a CA, it is not that okay, now the new topic has come or the new law has come, the amendments has come, so you will forget the old one. No, we have to keep in mind laws of earlier cases also. Why? Because you'll appreciate that when I'm practicing as a CA, when you are practicing as a CA, it will happen that there are multiple cases going on of earlier periods. Now, when cases are going on of earlier periods, I need to also remember the law period wise. What was the law in that particular year for which right now I'm handling the case? And also I need to know the new law. Plus also I need to know the budget changes. Interestingly, whether these budget changes will be accepted, will be finalized, may not happen. So when the budget gets finalized, it may be something even different. So in all these uncertainties, in all these changing laws, evolving laws, then you have some new laws coming. Suddenly in between something new comes, like you have the digital data protection law, you have the labor codes, you have to study that. So I believe it is only a chartered accountant who keeps burning the night oil and who keeps himself, herself very much updated, at the same time managing family responsibilities, managing your other personal health responsibilities, managing your relations, everything, and still smiling and still ready to face anything that the world throws. That is the beauty. That is, I will say, the power of being a chartered accountant. I always feel whenever I introduce myself as a chartered accountant, I feel so empowered because I know these are the things what only a chartered accountant can do and is doing. Nobody else today, no professional with due respect, is having such evolving laws, such changes, and it is not only one law. As a chartered accountant, today also you are studying so many subjects. In every subject, it will be continuous, constant changes. Something new is added, there are changes. Then what you understood, there is some retrospective amendment. That is the expanse of a chartered accountant's life. And that is where you should respect, you should be proud of all the people who are already chartered accountant, and you should keep yourself in high regards for yourself. We have a prayer which says, "Dusro ki jai se pehle khud ki jai kare." I believe this fits very well to a chartered accountant because many times I found we forget to praise ourselves. But as chartered accountants, what burden we are carrying? The financial burden of a company, and not one company, multiple companies. If I'm a professional, I'm into consulting, I'm into profession. So many files, people's money is at stake with my one single call or decision. That is the beauty, that is the power of our course. So, with this, high regards for our course and that strong mindset, that courageous mindset to fight out all odds. We will start with today's session. So, yes, very, very good evening, Ananya, Navneet, Lavanya, Vanshika, Sridhar, Karan, Surinder, Dhanlakshmi, Rashmi, Nitin, Harshal, Meenu, Diksha, Rajot, Lohit, Virashri, Purav, Regan, Anjali, Gulika, Tamanna, Divya, Aditi, Jash, Susmita, What Purav said, it must be overwhelming not just before becoming, but also obviously it is very overwhelming after becoming chartered accountant. But this you should keep in mind. People are forgetting this nowadays. Yes, very good evening, Ankita, Aditya, Kashish, Anjum. Sir, can you please send CA intermediate? Sorry, Soja, that will be sent to you. I think somebody has already sent. Please repeat it for Soja. Yes, very good evening, Mrs. Karpagapriya. Yes, Pavan, Manisha, Palak, everyone. Welcome to this ever evolving, beautiful subject of GST. Now, what is giving me more power today? What is giving me more power is the topic that we are going to study. In fact, a very powerful topic was the previous one where we studied, we understood the taxable event. But even more powering than that is today's topic. That is the topic of charge. Now, why is this topic so important? Why is this topic so empowering? Because of what you are going to study in this topic. That is what gives this topic the entire power. So I will be sharing my screen. Just give me a minute. Certain things are getting downloaded. Fine. ठीक है. So students, let me share my screen finally. So our topic today is charge of GST. Now, if you recall, I'll just show you my previous this. I even shared this with you, so you may download it. Four things are required in order that any tax can be charged. What are those four things? First is the taxable event, which we already studied, which is supply. Then the taxable object, which again we studied, which is good service, or the composite ones, which is called as both. But besides that, in order to levy tax, you require two more things. The person on whom tax has to be levied and the rate and the measure of how the tax would be computed and levied. Now, all these things are provided in the section called as the charging section. And in the CGST and the SGST Act, it is section 9. In the IGST Act, it is section 5. And in the UTGST Act, it is section 7. So these are the charging sections. And in these charging sections, now I've already written it here also. These are the charging sections in which you will study the manner in which tax would be levied. So what we are studying today is charge of GST, in which what we have to understand is the charging section. I've already listed out what is the charging sections in different GST related acts. Right now, since our main act or the focus is the CGST and the respective states SGST, it is section 9. And for the IGST, it is section 5. Now, we already know that what is supply on which tax will be levied. But what else is required to levy tax? That is what you are going to study in this section. Plus, you are going to study about the taxable person. Again, we have some definitions which we will be seeing as and when required. So let me first take you to the main part, which is the charging section. But before I go to the charging section, this part in every law is very important. I'm sure you all have studied this in every law. In every law, section 1 is fixed, and in 95% of law, section 2 is also fixed. Section 2 is the definition in 95% of the laws, and section 1 is this what is called as the extent, commencement, and scope. Now, what is the extent, commencement, and scope of the GST law? Again, I'll like to read this from the Bare Act. You can read from your module, it is the same, but I want you all to be habituated to see, to read the bare acts. That is why I purposefully every time take you to bare acts. Please bear with this, but this is just a way of giving you the real feel of the law. So you should be habituated reading the law as it is, which is called as the bare act. So how is section 1 headed? It says title, extent, and commencement. Now, what is the title? Title is the name. Extent is to which part of India or state it applies, and commencement is from which date it shall apply. Now, for CGST Act, obviously the name, the title will be the Central Goods and Service Tax Act. It extends to whole of India. Now, interestingly, there was something here. Can anybody tell me what was here which has been deleted? What was here which has been deleted? Yes, Divya.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Beda.
Sir, Jammu and Kashmir.
Exactly. And why or when it was deleted?
Sir, I don't know exactly. Maybe 2019, 20?
1920? अरे आपके सारे लॉज 1920 के बाद
No,
ही
no.
सब में लिखा है एक्सेप्ट जम्मू एंड कश्मीर. ओके, नो प्रॉब्लम. यस पवन.
सर जब हमारा जो 370 एक्ट पास हुआ था जम्मू एंड कश्मीर को लेकर उसके
आर्टिकल
बाद ये
370 एब्रोगेट हुआ. अच्छा, ठीक है. आई एक्सपेक्टेड दिस. नो प्रॉब्लम. यस. हु एल्स हैड रेज हैंड? पवन, दीक्षा.
Sir, 8 July.
Very good. So logical answer should have been what just gave, but correct answer is 8th of July. So logically, you will feel that this would have been removed whenever that Article 370 and 35 were abrogated. But no, in this case, it is removed on 8th July itself. Now see, this is how you read the law. When you read the bare act, you will have something like this. This star represents that something written has been deleted. So this you'll get to know from stars. And what is this 1 and 2? This is the footnotes where you'll get to know the details. So what does footnote 1 says? Omitted by section 2 of the CGST extension to Jammu and Kashmir Act, etc., etc. Prior to its omission, what was written? Except the state of Jammu and Kashmir. And I'm sure you would have found this written in many laws which you studied prior to 2019, because prior to 2019, before we abrogated Article 370 and 35A, many of the acts, central laws also did not apply to state of Jammu and Kashmir. What is footnote 2? Footnote 2 says the CGST extension to Jammu and Kashmir ordinance has been repealed with effect from this date, while section 3 of CGST Act, notwithstanding such repeal, anything done, etc., etc. So this is of no relevance. What is important is the date. So from 8th of July 2017, GST law became applicable to entire India. Now, I need not say including Jammu and Kashmir, because when I say India, India means Jammu and Kashmir also. Third thing, which is very interesting, it says it shall come into force. Now, what it should have written over here? It should have written over here 1st July, but it has not written over here 1st July. See what it has written. Just says, sir, your voice is having some glitch. Is that the case, students? Is my voice having some glitch? Okay. Okay. Anyways, my voice never has a glitch. It may be the glitch in the net, but others have confirmed there is no glitch in the net also. Okay, fine. So now what it says, it shall come into force. Now, normally for other acts, what is written you would expect over here, because we all know GST came into force on 1st of July 2017. But it says it will come into force on such date as the government will notify, and it will decide which date. Further, it says, provided that different dates may be appointed for different provisions. So, two interesting things. First, it says that may come into force on some date. The date will be notified by the government. Second, it further says certain provisions may come into force on different dates. Now, my question is, why is it written like this? See, I don't want to only teach you what is written. I want to give you the logics because I've already said today what is your power. Earlier also I've said that you as chartered accountant become gods of 5 subjects and one of the subject is taxation. People consider you as the ultimate authority of taxation. So you should know this. So 2 questions from my side. Why have they written on such date as may be notified? Why not 1st July is written over here? And second, why is this? Why different dates? Why it is saying that certain provisions may come into force on different dates? Has it really happened? So why? See, firstly, Divya, 370 was not removed last year. 370 was removed in 2019. In fact, after that, we had a movie also, Article 370, which was released last to last year. So in fact, the movie releases 2 years back. And we removed it, we abrogated it. Again, removed is not the word. Use correct word, students. Technical words. You should use correct technical words. I have always been emphasizing use abrogate. Don't say removed. Article 370, 35A has been abrogated, not removed. So my question, students, is so Divya is asking ki why it was deleted in 2017. See, abrogation happened in 2019, but the government could convince the state government of Jammu and Kashmir in 2019 itself. Like Income Tax Act also applies to Jammu and Kashmir. It is not given, it is not applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. Why? So it is not that all central laws are not applicable. The only thing is that only those central laws were made applicable which got permission of the respective state government of Jammu and Kashmir. This was before abrogation. Now, every central law, whatever is passed in our parliament in Delhi, applies to whole of India, which means Jammu and Kashmir. Now, coming back to the question, why is that they have written it will come into force on a date? Jilmil, you are saying later on the date added would be 1st July. But if that is the case, I'm reading the latest law. So like how they have removed the word Jammu, that except Jammu and Kashmir, they could have added the word 1st July over here. That has not been done. So let me tell you the reason. See, if you remember my previous class, I had mentioned that, which is given in your module also, they have given you timelines. And in timelines, they have given that.
Sir,
Yes, Dhanalakshmi.
that like starting it was in 2000 only they said GST is going to come, but it didn't come, no, sir.
When,
So
when?
2000, in the year 2000, they were talking about the
No,
GST,
no. The first date
but
that
it
the
didn't come.
government had given for introducing GST was 2010, which never came. Then 2014, when the government changed, they started the process. In 16, they brought the constitution amendment. See, all this is given in timeline in chapter 1. I'm just repeating what is the timeline given in chapter 1.
Okay. And like you told us, sir, that different dates may be appointed for different provisions of this act. Maybe
Why?
amendments should have should you
Why they will
like
write this? Acha, so if you are
based on
talking
the
that,
current changes, based on the current changes in the economy, they may need some changes. So maybe.
but that is for amendments. Now, this is not about amendment. This is about from which date which section will apply. Okay, I'll answer. Pay attention. So, firstly, if you remember the timelines given in first chapter, you can go back from March 2017. Different acts like CGST, IGST, they started the bills rather. The bills were being presented in the parliaments and they started getting passed by the parliament. So if you actually see the date of passing of this particular CGST Act, it happened somewhere in April and other acts happened of state in somewhere in May. So by April and May, they had already passed the act. So this act was passed by the parliament. It received the assent of Honorable President, but they had not decided which date will be the date they will be launching. So when this act was passed, on that date, the date was not decided. Hence, in the act, it was written on such date which the government will notify. Perfect. Then comes the second question, why here different dates? So even though where the laws were passed in April, May, why did the government defer till 1st of July? One reason, certain states were yet to pass, but the government could have made them pass early. But the main reason is because they wanted to give time to the existing businessmen who were earlier registered under service tax or excise or VAT to shift to GST. So they said that different dates will be appointed for different provisions, whereby when we'll go to the registration chapter, it is interesting to note the registration provisions were the first provisions to be made effective even before 1st of July. So on 1st of July, remaining act became applicable, but registration related provisions became applicable or were decided to be applied even before 1st of July. And now you'll understand why. Because on 1st of July, people have to start collecting and paying tax. But before that, they need to get registered. So in order that they can get registered, hence this was written in the law that different dates may be appointed for different provisions. So basically, mainly provisions relating to registration and all those procedural parts, they were made effective even before 1st of July. And once people did this shifting from the earlier laws to the new law, that is, they took registration in the GST law, they were ready with the GST registration, then the government actually launched GST on 1st of July. So this is the reason, students, why this particular sentence is there. This you will not find in income tax law. This you will not find in contract law. This you will not find in any recent laws also. Chalo, contract and all these are old laws. You go to the latest Income Tax Act 2025, which is passed last year. You go to any new law which is passed. They have not written like this. So that is what is the difference or reason. Fine, students? Now coming to the first interesting and important definition. We say this act applies to India. Now question is, what is India? In school, I was taught to believe, I'm using the word, I was taught to believe this is India. But when I started reading taxation law, I got to know that India is not only this land portion. See, this is the land portion, right? India is also somewhere here. This is what? This is water. So India is also here. This is water. Plus India is also above. Plus India is also beneath. Now all this is given in our constitution. However, our CGST Act has also defined India. What it says, as per section 2 clause 56 of this act, India means, firstly, it means what you have been taught in the school, that is the land territory of India. So this we know. But it also includes some part in the waters. Now, do you know how much part in the water is India? Very good, Meenu Kumari. So Meenu has rightly pointed out, it is 12 nautical miles. Very good, Meenu. So it is 12 nautical miles into the sea. That is also India. So India is not only limited to the land portion, the territory, it is also extending somewhere here, here, here. How much? 12 nautical miles. This is the general rule. Now, interestingly, if you see this side, they have not shown. Normally with India, Sri Lanka is shown in normally whenever in school maps you have seen. Now, between India and Sri Lanka, there is no difference of 12 nautical miles. It is much lesser. So for such things, you have a different arrangement. But otherwise, India includes the land portion, which is territory, the territorial waters, which is 12 nautical miles. Now, interestingly, it also includes the lower part. What is this lower part? The seabed, the subsoil. See, this is shown. So this is the land portion of India, which is over here called as the baseline. So somewhere from here, the water starts. So up to 12 nautical miles. 12 nautical miles. Now, what is nautical miles? Like how you measure the distance on land in kilometers or miles, sea's distance or the distance in water is measured in knots. So that is why whenever you watch in movies, they will use the word knots. So many things related to water is measured in knots. So even the distance is measured in nautical miles. Now, interestingly, Up to 12 nautical miles, it is also India, which is our territorial boundary. But interestingly, you will find that besides this 12 nautical miles, there is something which is up to 200 nautical miles, which is called as the exclusive economic zone. What is this? See, one you have read SEZ, which is special economic zone, that is in the land portion only. But in waters, there is a special area which is called as exclusive economic zone, which in our case is extending up to 200 nautical miles in the sea. Now, what is this exclusive economic zone? See, there are many minerals, there are crude oil reserves in the seabed also. Now, this below part is the seabed, right? We call it as the seabed. Now, if something is in my territory, I can extract that. But if something is in the sea and it is beyond my territory, now let me tell you, beyond territory of every country, there is still a lot of water. So we all know 70% of Earth is water. So every water body is not part of every country. Every country is having some nautical miles into the water, which is that country. Beyond that, it is international waters. So it is no man's land. However, through international agreements, through international permission, every country is given rights to do some economic activity like extracting, if there is some crude oil reserve, if there is some minerals in the seabed. So they are allowed the permission through international treaties, through international permissions to extract those crude oil reserves or mineral reserves which are lying in the seabed. So we are given this permission up to 200 nautical miles. So now coming back to the definition. So what is India? It is the land portion, which is territory. It is the 12 nautical miles plus the seabed below this 12 nautical mile. So whatever is this part below water, that seabed also belongs to India. Further, the continental shelf exclusive economic zone. So everything is marked here. So all this part is called as the continental shelf. So this land portion exactly below our 200 nautical miles. Still this 200 nautical miles, whatever is the seabed or the land portion below the waters, that is called as the continental shelf. So continental shelf exclusive economic zone or any other maritime zone which is referred to in this act. This is India. Plus most important, the airspace. Now after this which Balakot airstrike attack, and also after this recent Operation Sindoor, now you have understood what is this airspace and air territory. So when we went for Balakot airstrike or we did this Operation Sindoor, we entered the airspace of Pakistan. What is airspace? Like how you have your territory on land and water, exactly above land. The space is also belonging to you. The air is also belonging to you. So that is what is called as airspace. So that much is the extent of India. Is this clear to everyone? Yes, Rashmi. Rashmi has pointed out very correctly what is the conversion of nautical miles into our land distance. So 1 nautical miles is equal to approximately 1.854 kilometers. Yes. Thank you, Rashmi, for the information. So student, this is what is India. And whenever we talk about laws, all laws extend up to this. Please keep in mind, all laws extend up to this because this much is our territory. So up to 12 nautical miles, all laws extend. We also call this as our political boundary. So besides the land portion, whatever is in water and in air, that is also called as your political boundary. But for taxation laws, here it has also extended to further 200 nautical miles. Why? Because we are allowed to do some economic activity. And once there is economic activity, obviously taxation will come. So hence, for taxation law, our boundary is extended up to 200 nautical miles into the sea, where we are going to do some extraction. Aditi Verma, beta, they have written what is this 200 nautical mile. They call it as the contiguous zone. So for custom purposes, if customs wants to take any action, they are allowed to take action up to 12 nautical miles. So beyond this 12 nautical miles, further 12 nautical miles is called as the contiguous zone. So up to 24 nautical miles is the custom boundary. So till that point, the customs authorities can take their action. Then the definition of SGST law is given. SGST law means the respective states laws. Now, what is interesting to notice, the definition of state will mean state, plus it will also mean union territories. See, interestingly, we have Union Territory Act, but we also have State Act. Now, interestingly, wherever a union territory is having an assembly, like Delhi, like Puducherry, they are union territories, but they have assembly, like Jammu and Kashmir. These are union territories, but they are having assemblies. So whenever a union territory is having an assembly, that is a parliament of its own, it has its chief minister and the entire cabinet of ministers. For the purpose of GST law, such union territories will also be called as states. So state for the purpose of GST law will mean two things. One is the states, and second is those union territories which are having parliament. Those union territories which are not having parliament, like the union territories of Andaman, Nicobar, Lakshadweep, etc., they will be called as union territories, and to them, UT GST Act will apply. Correct? So these are the union territories to which UT GST Act will apply. But the remaining three, that is Delhi, Puducherry, and JNK, for them, you have specific SGST Act, because for the purpose of GST law, they are treated as states and not as union territories. So this is that one quiz question that will help you in understanding this point. Now, after we have understood section 1, let us go to the charging section. Now, firstly, what is the relevance of charging section? See, charging section is that section which will tell you, ki boss, if you do this, you have to pay this tax. Or if you do this, this taxation law will apply to you. That is what is the importance, the power of charging section. Diksha says, according to GST, we have 31 states. Yes, maybe because they are including union territories in states. Na? So these three union territories are included. So it is something 31, or I think after Jammu and Kashmir, it is 32. Sorry, I'm very bad at geography. But yes, so according to GST, we should be having 31 states and balance are union territories. Okay. Now coming to your charging section, which as I said is section 9 of the CGST SGST Act and section 5 of the IGST Act. Now let me take you to the BEAR Act again. Now we'll first study the BEAR Act of the CGST Act. We will not study SGST, but we'll definitely study IGST. So section 7 we did. Section 9. Now see what is the heading. The heading is Levy and Collection. So it is that section which tells GST will be applicable to whom and when. Now let me tell you, subsection 1 is the one which creates levy. Subsection 2 has deferred this levy on 5 petro products, because of which today petroleum is outside GST. So subsection 2 has deferred the levy of GST on 5 petro products. Deferred means it has said that these 5 petro products are under GST, but for the time being, we are not levying GST. That is why on these 5 petro products, you still have the old taxation. Then what is interesting is subsection 3 and subsection 4 has brought a concept of RCM, and subsection 5 has brought a concept of SCM. What is this RCM, SCM, we will understand. But before that, let us understand the main charging section. Now for next few minutes, no questions, please. Let me now explain it in a flow, and then I will be opening your question and answers. Sridhar is asking, sir, in Arabian Sea, which act is applied? See, beta, in Arabian Sea, firstly, CGST, IGST Act applies. And since Arabian Sea is connected to the state of Maharashtra, so again, there is a specific section which says that when any of the activities happening in the sea, whoever is the nearest coastal state, that state will apply. So Gujarat, Maharashtra, Goa, whatever is the nearest coastal state to that particular activity, because Arabian Sea is everywhere, right? So when any activity is happening in the 12 nautical miles area or in the sea area, then whichever is the nearest coastal state, that becomes the applicable state. So good question, Sridhar. But now no questions further. For next few minutes, till I explain you the charging section. I'll first start with subsection 2 because this section is not required for the time being. What it says, the central tax on the supply of 5 petroleum products. What are these 5 petroleum products? The crude oil, which we import, then the diesel, the petrol, the natural gas, and the one which is used in planes. On these 5 petroleum products, the central tax is levied, but with effect from a future date, which will be again notified by the government on recommendation of council. See, this phrase you will find in every provision. Why? Because I explained this in first chapter. Now today GST law is a dual tax where both center and state together take decisions, and where this decision is taken, it is taken in the council meeting, which is a combination of both. So for the time being, these 5 petro products have been kept outside GST, and hence on these 5 petro products, your present old laws or the earlier old laws are applicable. Now, except these 5 products, for all other products, GST applies. And that is why the main charging section of GST 9.1 starts with what? Subject to subsection 2. So you can read it like this: except these 5 products, for all other products, there shall be levied what? A tax. And this tax will be called as central tax. Now, this is the only difference. When you read SGST, this will call it as state tax. So central called as the central tax, CGST, that is CGST, that is Central Goods and Service Tax. And on what it will apply? It will apply on all intrastate supplies. Now, if you remember my first lecture, I had said that whenever the supply happens within the state, you pay half CGST, half SGST. But when the supply happens between 2 states, you pay full GST, but called as IGST. Now, this will be the difference between the CGST and the IGST Act. In the IGST Act, over here, they have written interstate. So when we go to the IGST Act charging section, here you will find the word interstate. But in CNS, here you find the words intrastate. So what it is said? So we will levy a tax, which will be called as CGST, on all intrastate supplies of goods or services or both, except liquor. Why? Because liquor is outside GST as per constitution itself. I have already explained. And also they have later on added one more thing: undenatured extra neutral alcohol. In short, we will call it as ENA. So this is a type of alcohol. This also they have kept outside, which is also called as rectified spirit when it is used for manufacture of liquor. So liquor itself and this alcohol or spirit which is used for manufacture of liquor, these things are kept outside GST. So this is outside GST because of constitution, what? Liquor. Then this EN is outside because it has been specifically excluded in the charging section. Petroleum is outside temporarily. Other than this, all other things are under GST. Now, what does the charging section says? It says that we will levy GST. We will levy GST on all intrastate supplies of goods, services, or both, right? Importantly, on what value? On the value which section 15 will tell you, and at what rate? The rate not exceeding 20%. Why 20? Because it is half, so maximum rate is 40, you all know. So rates cannot exceed 40%. And most important, but where the rates are given, as may be notified by the government on recommendation of council. So actual rates for different goods and services will be notified, but what does the charging section says? It cannot exceed 20%. So in total, it cannot exceed 40%. Further, it says, and it will be collected in such manner as may be prescribed, and it shall be paid by the taxable person. Now I come back to my first chapter notes. If you remember, I had said that for levy of tax, 4 things have to be identified. 4 things have to be mentioned in the law. And where it is mentioned in the law, in the charging section, I had already explained that at that time. But since it was a topic of supply, we only discussed these 2 things. Now you see, in section 9, they have mentioned supply. So they have mentioned the charging section. They have mentioned goods, service, or both. So they have mentioned the taxable object. At the end, they have said it has to be paid by the taxable person. Who is taxable person? We'll see the definition. Then for tax rate, it has said maximum is 20, that is total 40. But exact rate, it has said, will be notified by government. So they have talked about rate, and also they have talked about the value. that the value will be as per 15. Until and unless all these 5 or 4 things are present, there can be no levy. So levy is created by section 9(1). Now I'll take you to the IGST Act. We will read the parallel IGST Act to understand what does the charging section of IGST Act says. So I will reopen the same act again, because in the same this act I have the IGST also here only. See, these are the rules that also will be required to study as and when it will be required, we'll be studying the rules also. So see, this is the bare act. You have the act first, you have the rules. So this is how CGST Act, CGST rules are given. And then you have the other act. Yes. This is the IGST Act. Achha, also, I would like to explain one more thing interesting. See, I said, na, these acts were passed earlier. When it was passed, the date is written. Now, what is this? Because whenever you read an act, you read this also. So this is also given in the CGST Act. A number is given, a date is given. This date, as I said, these acts were passed. In March, the bills were presented, and by April, May, these acts were passed. So the date of passing of this is this. What is this? Number 13. No, Aditi, it is not a circular number. Circular altogether is a different category. This is act. It cannot be circular number. See, apply logic. Read the whole thing. You'll get some logic. Read the whole thing. No, it is not notification number. Manmeet, you are close. Akshay, you are close, but exactly what? It is act number, it is serial number, fine. But still, I want to hear more precise. Very good, Anil. So, it is the 13th number of act passed in the year 2017. So, it is number 13 of 17 means it is the 13th act. So, during this year, multiple acts would have been passed. In that year, the sequence number of this act to be passed is 13. I'll just show you CGST Act also. 1 second. So in CGST Act, again, if you go to the very start, first page, in fact, now this will also become old after this budget. So our institute will give us the next revised version. This is the previous budget amendments given. Now see the Central Goods and Service Tax Act. See, we read this. Certain sections would come into force early. Now see, it has written these sections. All these are procedural sections have been enforced on 22nd of June. These sections, correct? These have been enforced 1st of July. Some other section has been even enforced later. So see, as we read, na, some sections will be enforced from different dates. So the procedural sections were made applicable earlier so that people could do the transition. They could start taking registration and do all the procedural part. And the remaining sections of the law became applicable from 1st of July. Okay, now see, this is number 12. And what was for IGST? It was number 13. So IGST was the 13th act to be passed in that year 2017. CGST was the 12th act to be passed in that year 2017. And see the dates of passing of this act, both are passed on the same date. And these are passed in the 68th year of Republic of India. I'm sure you'll understand this. India became republic in 1950. So from 1950, we are counting the year, like how we just celebrated 26 January. It was this 26 January? 75, 76, 77. Technically, it is 77th Republic Day. Yes. And we have completed 76 years, but it was 77th Republic Day. Right. So students, I hope you all understood these important aspects. So this is what is the number, the serial number during that year. Multiple acts have passed. This is the 12th act, the CGST, and IGST is the 13th act, which is passed. Fine, students. So let me go to the charging section. Anil, but don't mix between act and circular. I have not yet come to circular. So if you are calling these as circulars, you are incorrect. These are the provisions of the act. Circulars are different. Circulars are different. Notifications are different. This is act. Some portion of the act means some section of the acts have been passed at different dates. And as I had already informed you, the procedural had to be started early so that people start taking registration and start being ready. That is why they were passed in June itself. And the remaining act got passed on 1st of July. Means passed means it was, sorry, passed earlier. It was made effective from that date. Now, let me come to the charging section. Now see again, subsection 2 we'll first read and we'll leave it. What it says the integrated tax again on 5 petroleum products will be levied with effect from a date to be notified. So this has gone out, right? Then we come back to the main charging section. What it says, subject to subsection 2, there shall be levied a tax called as the IGST, that is the integrated tax. Now it uses the word on all interstate supplies of goods, service or both. Again, it is saying except the same thing, liquor and ENA, which is used in manufacturing of liquor. Again, it says on the value which is given in section 15 at the rates which is not exceeding 40, because it is IGST which levies the total tax rate. So it is 40. And what will be the exact rate that will be notified, and it will be collected in manner as may prescribe, and again it will be paid by the taxable person. So see, everything between section 7 of CGST and section 5 of IGST same except for the word intrastate and interstate. I hope this is clear to everyone. Now you can come back to me with your questions. Aditi beta, this question you should answer me. I have already explained this. Why 40 here and why 20 in CGST? You should answer to me this point. Hello students, if you have any questions, you can ask me. Very good. But students, this 20 and 40 are maximum. It is not the actual rate. Actual rate will be notified. So as I said, this is the act. You have something separate called as notification. You have something separate called as rules. You have something separate called as circulars. So these are the 4 things that make the whole law. So the act, the rules, the notifications, the circular, this all together make the whole law. Right now, what we are reading is only the act. And here they have said maximum is 40. So it is not that actual rate is 40, maximum is 40. Actual, they have said, will be notified. So for different rates, Sridhar, why they will give minimum rate here? Minimum will be what? You tell me what will be minimum rate. Come on, logically tell me what will be minimum. Maximum is 40. What will be minimum? Minimum will be 0. So there is a nil rate. There is a minimum rate. Correct. Perfect. Then just give me 2 minutes. In that 2 minutes, I'll request you all read this proviso. Read this part, so that I can come back and explain. Just give me 2 minutes. Sorry. Now, this proviso you will not find in the CGST and the SGST Act. This proviso is there only in the IGST Act. Why? Because it is dealing with import of goods. So what it says, provided that integrated tax on goods, now for the timing we'll keep this bracket aside, imported into India shall be levied and collected in accordance with customs. So what they have done is, they have said that whenever there will be import of goods, so on import of goods, whatever tax, obviously it is IGST only. So the IGST which is leviable on import of goods, that will be levied, that will be collected, but not in accordance with the GST law. It will be done in accordance with the customs law. I hope this is clear to everyone. So this is what is the special point in this proviso. Somebody is asking, sir, on which item 40% GST levied? But that you need not. I'm on mute. But that you need not be concerned right now on which item 40 is levied. That you will get to know when you study the notifications which are not part of your syllabus. So let me also not venture into that, because unnecessarily it will be wasting our time, because then going to tax rates will change our direction, right? So for the time being, we'll keep that point aside. Now, what is a customs tariff? Good question, Akhila. Beta. So like how GST rates are given in a notification, which is the rate notification. Similarly, the customs rates are given in a special act. So interestingly, the rates of customs duty are given in a special act, a separate act called as the Customs Tariff Act. So tariff means rate, right? Is this clear, Beda? On import of goods, there is custom as well as IGST. Yes, we had discussed this, Manmeet, that on import of goods, because both acts taxable events is happening. One, you are importing, so taxable event of customs is happening. Plus, it is a supply, so taxable event of GST is happening. So both taxes are levied. If I am not wrong, in study material, intrastate supply mention. Where, beta, Minu? So intrastate supply will be mentioned because CGST Act is given. So in our act also, when I was reading CGST, it was intrastate. And when you read IGST, it will be interstate. So Kambira is asking, so sir, when to use the word tariff and tax? See, understand, beta. Tariff is the technical word. So tariff means any rate which is applied by the government. So whenever government applies any rate, it is called as tariff. So tax is one such rate. So you can say tariff is a broader term. Tax, cess, all these things comes under tariff only. This is clear? What is the meaning of proviso? Good, I'll explain. Aditi is saying, sir, on service, why there will be only IGST? Oh, good question, Aditi. See, because the Customs Act applies only to goods. Even today, customs applies only to import, export of goods. So even for import of service, what is your question? There is no customs. Right? Yes, students. The next is, what is the meaning of proviso? See, whenever in the act you find this word, generally after the main part of the section, you have a para, and the para starts with this phrase, provided that. Whenever a paragraph starts with this, that paragraph is called as a proviso. Now, what is a proviso? A proviso is like, you can say, an exception. So whatever is given in the main part, if something has to be carved out, okay, this is what I have said, but except for this, the above thing is correct. So when I have to carve out something different from the main part, that different part is starting with the words provided that, and that part will be called as proviso. So proviso is like an exception to the main part. So students, I hope the main charging section is clear. So now I will write it down in my notes, which will be shared later with you all. So what is a charging section 9 saying? It says that CGST shall be levied. Now I'm also writing S because 9 of state will say this only. Shall be levied. Now it will be levied on what? On intrastate supplies of goods, services, both in both composite will come at maximum 40%, but actual rates decided by government in notification. Then at value as per section 15 and paid by taxable person. Now here this says except alcoholic liquor for HC. HC means human consumption and ENA. Correct? Now similar thing is given in the IGST Act as well with the following changes. So section 5 of IGST Act is saying similar things, only instead of the word interstate, it is using the word, right? Remaining everything else is same. What else is same is the proviso. What it says in proviso? On import of goods. Now this I'm writing the bracket part, except specified actionable claims. IGST shall be levied and collected as per customs law provisions. Now, students, I have already mentioned whenever I'll be using the word law, it means I'll be covering act, rules, notification, everything in one word. So when I have to refer everything in one word, I'll use the word law. Yes, Divya.
सर हमने SGST में तो 20% पढ़ा था ना मैक्सिमम लिमिट.
करेक्ट.
बट सर आपने 40% लिखा है.
चलो ठीक है, उसको ऑरेंज कर देता हूँ, यानी वो 40 किसके लिए हो गया? IGST के लिए हो गया, और मैं ब्लू में उसे 20 कर देता हूँ. ठीक है ना? अब सही हो जाएगा.
यस सर.
Perfect. So students, this is what is subsection 1 saying of both the charging sections. Correct? Then we come to the second part, which is section 5 subsection 2 and parallelly section 9 subsection 2. What both the things says? Both the things says that on 5 petro products, GST shall apply from a future date, which will be notified by government on recommendation of council. Now till this point we studied. Now I want to explain you what is RCM, which is the interesting part. Now, both these sections, 9394, they are talking about RCM. RCM is reverse charge mechanism. Now, what is this reverse charge mechanism? So basically, generally what happens? See, generally in a transaction, when a supplier is supplying goods, services, or both. So GSB is goods, service, or both to the recipient, right? So these are the two terms used, supplier, recipient. Generally, who is the person who has to pay tax to the government? Students, you can write S for supplier, R for recipient. Or if you want to say something else, then you'll have to write S for supplier, R for recipient. Who is the person who has to go and pay tax to the government? Listen to my question. Who has to go and pay tax to the government? Generally, it is the supplier. So what does the supplier do? The supplier adds the tax in the value of goods service and collects the tax from the recipient and pays to the government. So it is going from the pocket of recipient, I agree. But who is the person who has to go and pay tax to the government? It is the supplier. This is the general rule. However, 9394 and equally 5354 has reversed this rule. So what it says? For some specified supplies, that is for some specified transaction, tax has to be paid to the government by recipient. That is why it is reverse charge. So in 75 to 80% of transactions, the tax will be payable to the government by the supplier, which is the normal rule. Even in sales tax, the same thing happened. In service tax, same thing happened. In excise, same thing happened. But then for some specified cases, for some specified transactions, and here the transactions are supplies, so we'll call them as specified supplies, the tax would be required to be paid to the government by the recipient and not by the supplier. Is this clear? Now the question is, why? Why is this mechanism changed? Why is there the concept of reverse charge? Answer is, see, whenever a law is made, the law has to be made in such a fashion that it should be properly implemented. For government also, it should be convenient to implement the law. Now, what do I mean by implementing the law? See, the law made says that tax has to be paid. Very good. But somebody is given the responsibility of collecting the tax. Who is this somebody? This somebody is government. And that is how you have this income tax officers, you have the GST officers, you have the custom officers. They are the one who are called as the government machinery. See, certain words now you'll have to keep in mind. So machinery means the mechanism through which the government will be implementing the law. Now the parliament passed the law, government has to implement the law. So the government has appointed or made these departments and they have appointed the officers. But practically, if you look at business, you will find that, as I said, only in 75 to 80% transactions, it is easy, it is convenient to collect tax from supplier. But in remaining transactions, it is not convenient, rather not possible. Yes, Kambira is using a good word. It is hard to track the supplier. But at the same time, it is easy to track the recipient. I'll give you examples so that you'll understand. Later on, we are going to read the complete list also. So, see, normally you go to a shop. Let us say you are going to a mall. So in mall, the supplier is the mall owner or that brand owner in whose shop you are stepping in. In a day, there are at least 500 customers who buy goods from that particular shop in the mall. So in a month, it would be 500 multiplied by 30 and so on in the year. Now, in this case, there is one supplier and there are thousands or lakhs of recipients. So what is convenient for the government? It is convenient that it will ask the supplier ki boss, you pay the tax because you are one and recipients are thousands or lakhs. So for us, it is easy to catch hold of one person. Reason you are one and the recipients are thousands or lakhs. Second, you have a fixed place. The customers are moving. I cannot go and track the customers. I cannot go and find the customers tomorrow. But I can definitely come and catch you because you have a shop. I'll find you here. So this is how the normal rule, which is there even in GST and which was there even earlier, is supplier is the person responsible to pay tax. However, applying the same logic, over a period, the government identified few transactions, few supplies where they found that it is difficult to track the supplier but easy to track the recipient. I'll give you few examples. First example is supplier is director and recipient is company. It is the director's remuneration which the director gets because the director is providing services to a company. Now in this case, company which is the recipient of the director service, it is one. It is having a fixed place. And the director who is an individual who keeps on rotating. You will study this in company law, or you may have studied company law, that there is a rotation. So directors are many. Firstly, they are not one, they are many in any given period of time, and plus they are rotating, plus they are individual. They do not have any office as such. In fact, they are coming to the company's office for doing the work. Once they leave, where they are, it will be difficult to track. So in this transaction or in this example, you come to know that there is one recipient, which is the company, and there are multiple suppliers. Same thing happens in the second example of insurance, where you have one insurance company and thousands of insurance agents. So you take any example, LIC or any private insurance company, where the company is one, but every company has thousands, rather some companies have lakhs of agents who bring them the business by bringing them the policy holders and getting the policy done, for which the insurance company has to pay them the commission. Now again, these agents are individuals. They may not be having any office. They may be working from home. So for government, it is difficult to find them, to track them, to catch hold of them. But it is very easy to track hold of one person who is the recipient. So they have identified such transactions where they found it is easy to catch the recipient than the supplier. So they put those in 9394. Rather, 9394 is not giving the list. 9394 is only saying again, the government will notify a list and we are going to study that list in this chapter itself. But what is the point in 9394 and same equally 5354? You don't have to read anything different in 5354. It is similar. The language is similar, only intra is replaced by inter. That is the only difference, nothing else. So what it is saying that for some specified transactions which will be notified, government has shifted the responsibility from supplier to recipient. Let us read. So I'm reading 5 of IGST Act. You read section 9 of CGST Act. The language is similar, only intra is the difference. So what it says, subsection 3 of 5 says, the government may on recommendation of the council by notification. So there will be a notification which will give you the list. What they will do in the notification, they will specify. Specify what? Some transactions, some categories of supplies where the tax has to be paid to the government on ulta basis. That is why they have called as reverse charge. Why ulta? Because it has to be paid to the government by whom? By the recipient of such transactions. And then they say all the provisions of this act shall apply to the recipient as if the person is the person liable to pay tax. Same thing is given in subsection 4. The government may on recommendation of council by notification specify. Here they have only changed the thing that where the recipient is a registered person, specify a class of registered person who, in respect of certain supplies of goods and services, shall, when he is receiving the goods and services from an unregistered person, pay the tax. So the only difference between 9394 is, again, in 9394, supplier recipient, who is liable to pay tax recipient. In case of 94, supplier is unregistered, a recipient is registered. The only difference in 93 and 94 is, in 94, those transactions are covered where a supplier is registered, supplier is unregistered and recipient is registered. So both cases, what they have said, the responsibility to pay tax has been reversed. It means it has been put on whom? On the recipient. Students, I hope you all have understood 9394, though I am reading 5354. In the module you find 9394, the language is exactly same, no difference. Yes, Josh.
Sir, actually, correct if I am wrong. Like I am a bit confused. Like if I am a B2B supplier and I am solding my goods to another person, like another business. But sir, how would I know that like the another business is paying my the GST or not? Like it can be a forged company, na? Like how do I know? Like so
Okay, so I'll
GST
I'll
मेरे को
reframe
लग
your
जाएगा.
question. I will reframe your question. I think the correct question should be, कि when you are doing business, when will you pay tax and when will the recipient pay tax? Can I reframe the question like this?
Yes, sir.
Your question different. So let us say you are a
Sir,
shopkeeper. Let us say you are a grocery person. In your shop, you have
जी.
around 500 items which you are selling. Now, your simple question, what I understood is whether on the sale of those 500 items you have to pay tax, or on the sale of 490 you will pay tax, and on the sale of 10 items, even though you have sold, your recipient will pay tax. Is this your question? How will you come to know who will pay tax on what?
नो सर एक्चुअली लाइक आई एम सेइंग जैसे कि मैंने जो सेल करा है मैं उसका टैक्स पे करूंगा या
करेक्ट, आप
जो
अपनी
मैंने
भाषा में
परचेज.
बोलो, आप अपनी पूरा बात कंप्लीट करो.
अच्छा सर मैंने कुछ मैंने एक सामान बेचा है.
आपने
मैंने
हेडफोन
मैं
बेचा, अपना हेडफोन वाला एग्जांपल कंटिन्यू करते हैं. यू आर अ डीलर, यू आर क्रोमा शोरूम, यू आर सेलिंग हेडफोन्स
यस
ऑफ कोट कंपनी. यस, नाउ टेल मी द हेडफोन इज ऑफ 20,000. आगे बोलो.
सर मैंने उसके बाद मैंने वो हेडफोन बेचा और मैंने उसकी जो जीएसटी मैंने वो पे कर दी है.
करेक्ट.
तो मतलब जो मैंने जिसको बेचा है पर क्या पता वो कंपनी हो मतलब कोई वो सब जो जिसको मैंने बेचा है वो फ्रॉड हो मतलब फोर्ज कंपनी हो.
आपको उससे क्या
तो वो
करना है?
कैसे हाँ उसका.
आपको उससे क्या करना है? अगर आपका, सी, लॉ ने अगर आपको बोला है कि आपको टैक्स कलेक्ट करके पे करना है, तो समझो ये जो 20,000 प्राइस है, इसमें लेट अस अज्यूम फॉर सिंप्लिसिटी 2,000 रुपए टैक्स है. आपने बिल भी देखा
जी
रहेगा, तो हमेशा बिल ऐसा ही आता है, एमआरपी 20 रुपए या 20,000 है, मगर
जी
बिल कैसे आता है? गुड्स के नाम के सामने 18,000 लिखा है और
टैक्सेबल
जीएसटी के
प्लस
नाम के
जीएसटी.
सामने. बराबर. तो समझो 18,000 के गुड्स है, 2,000 टैक्स है, ऐसे
जी
टोटल 20,000 हो गया फॉर सिंप्लिसिटी. अब अगर ये टैक्स आपको भरना है, तो
ओके.
आपने तो पूरे 20,000 उससे लेने हैं और आपने 2,000 जाके गवर्नमेंट को भर देना है. अब वो आदमी फ्रॉड है, वो आदमी फेक है, वो आदमी बोगस है, इससे आपको क्या फर्क पड़ता है? मतलब वाई आर यू बॉदर्ड कि वो आदमी बोगस है? तो आपने तो टैक्स कलेक्ट करके भर दिया ना गवर्नमेंट को. हाउ आर यू कंसर्न विथ वेदर दैट पर्सन इज बोगस? वाई आर यू बॉदर्ड?
हाँ सॉरी सर.
आपको तो फर्क ही नहीं पड़ना चाहिए.
जी
भाई,
मैंने
आपके
अपना अमाउंट
दुकान
ले
में,
लिया.
आपके क्रोमा शोरूम में दिन में हजारों लोग वॉक इन आते हैं, उसमें से 500 लोग कोई भी सामान खरीदते हैं. आप तो केवल कैश काउंटर पे उनसे पैसा कलेक्ट करते हो, जीएसटी के साथ उनको बिल बना के दे देते हो. और जब ये मंथ कंप्लीट होता है, तो जब ड्यू डेट आती है, आपने जितना भी जीएसटी कलेक्ट किया, आप जाके गवर्नमेंट को भर देते हो. उस आदमी ने वो सामान को इस्तेमाल किया, फेंका, उसका फ्रॉड किया, आपका कोई कंसर्न ही नहीं है.
ओके सर. सॉरी.
सही है.
यस सर वो लाइक मैं थोड़ा कंफ्यूज मुझे समझ में नहीं आता था. ठीक है
अभी
सर अब
क्लियर
आ
है?
गया. यस सर अब क्लियर है. थैंक यू सर.
तो स्टूडेंट्स, 93945354 क्लियर टू एवरीवन? before I go to subsection 5. In my act, I'm reading 5354. I read 5354. In your module, it is 9394. Both are copy paste. आप कहीं से ही पढ़ो, दोनों में आंसर सेम है, दोनों में मतलब सेम है. You can read anywhere. Sir, can you please explain example of RCM, the director example again? दिव्या बेटा, अभी आप जब हम लिस्ट पढ़ेंगे ना, तो मैं आपको लिस्ट में से वापस एक्सप्लेन कर दूंगा. मैथिली 9394 इज इन आवर स्टडी मटेरियल सर, फॉर एग्जाम पर्पस, और इट इज ओनली. बेटा, आपके स्टडी मटेरियल में जो भी है सब एग्जाम के लिए है. Aditi Verma, I will give you multiple examples of RCM when I go to the list of RCM. For the time being, just understand one thing: RCM means where instead of supplier, the recipient is required to pay tax. और वो क्यों बना है, उसका लॉजिक यही है कि जहां पे रेसिपिएंट एक है और सप्लायर बहुत सारे हैं. एग्जाम्पल था पहला, कंपनी एक है, डायरेक्टर्स बहुत सारे हैं. दूसरा, इंश्योरेंस कंपनी एक है, एजेंट्स बहुत सारे हैं. यू विल हैव मल्टीपल सच एग्जांपल्स. या एक रीजन ये, या दूसरा रीजन, वेरेवर द गवर्नमेंट फेल्ट इट इज इजी टू कलेक्ट टैक्स फ्रॉम द रेसिपिएंट देन फ्रॉम द सप्लायर. इट इज इजी टू आइडेंटिफाई, टू ट्रैक द रेसिपिएंट देन द सप्लायर. व्हेनेवर दिस थिंग्स हैपेंस, it is put under reverse charge. So students, is 9394 clear? Should I go to 95? मैथिली बेटा, आप क्या सवाल पूछ रहे हो, मुझे नहीं समझ में आ रहा है. प्लीज रेज योर हैंड, आई विल अनम्यूट यू. प्लीज यू आस्क मी, आई विल एक्सप्लेन यू. What you are saying, I am not understanding. Now you are asking where is there 9394, what it means. I am not getting your question. Either you explain your question or raise your hand, beta. Okay. Let us go to subsection 5. Now this I am reading from module, so it is 9.5. It is copy paste in section 5.5 of IGST Act. So both wherever you read from, it is same. Now first let me explain you what is this before I start reading. So 9394 was reverse charge. 95 is, I call it as special charge. What is this special charge? In 95 they have said again, for some specified supplies, but here it is only of services. RCM also included goods and services both. Here it will be only of services. Tax shall be paid by ECO. ECO is e-commerce operator. Now what is this? Again, understand the logic. Same logic. Wherever the government felt it is difficult to track the supplier, it is difficult to track the recipient, but since they are doing business using some online platform like Flipkart, Myntra, Meesho, this Prime, all these online forums. So whenever people are doing business using some online portal That online portal is called as the e-commerce operator. So now there are multiple examples, but what is very important is they are only covering transactions of service. So who are covered right now in this Ola Uber? You know, this is covered. Urban Clap, then Agoda, Make My Trip. All these online apps are covered because they are providing service. Now, in the law, they have not given the names of these persons. They have given the list of services for which they want to bring this type of law. Now, why? I'll give you the example and the same logic. Take example of Ola Uber. You are the recipient. You want to go from one place in Delhi to another place in Gurgaon. Now, the simplest thing is you have downloaded the Ola app. You book a cab. The cab person arrives in 5 minutes, and the cab person takes you from that place in Delhi to the place in Gurgaon, drops you, and you pay him or her 300 rupees. Now, in this transaction, the government felt it is difficult to catch the recipient. Why? Because recipients are common man. They don't have any place of business. Plus, it is difficult to catch the supplier. Who is the supplier? The cab operator. After the cab operator has uh, delivered you from one place to another, government cannot even track the cab operator. They may close the app and they may get vanished. So government felt that it is difficult to catch the supplier also, who is the cab operator, and the recipient also, who is common man. So they thought who it is easy to catch hold of, it is the operator. That is the online platform through whom we are getting connected. So when you are getting connected through an online app and using that app, you are providing the service, there will be 9.5 applicability, but 9.5 is not applicable to all service. Firstly, it is not applicable to online online goods sale. So for online goods sale, 9.1, that is supplier only liable to pay. But for online services, that also only some specified services, they have put the responsibility on the app. So the app is required to collect tax and pay it to the government. So neither the supplier will do, neither the recipient will do. Right? So Amazon, Flipkart are not covered. Nykaa is not covered because these are for goods. Myntra is not covered because it is for goods. Swiggy, Zomato, yes, they may be covered. Ajio, I don't know, but I think Ajio is also for goods, not covered. JioMart not covered because these are all only for goods. And I've already mentioned 9.5 will be only for services. Let us read. So, what does 9.5 says? Yes, Rapido is covered, Aditi. The government may, on recommendation of council by notification, what it will do, specify, but what? Only some services. If you read this above in 9394, it was goods or service or both. Here it is saying only services. The tax on intrastate supplies of which shall be paid. Now, who shall be paying the tax? It shall be paid by the e-commerce operator, that is that app. When? If such services are supplied through the app. And then it is saying the same thing. All the provisions of this act shall apply to the e-commerce operator as if the e-commerce operator is the supplier liable for paying tax. So this is the special case where neither the supplier nor the recipient. Ajio beta, Josh, I've already said Ajio, as far as I understand, is providing, you order goods from Ajio. If you're ordering goods, it is not covered. If you're ordering service, and that also the specified service, only they are covered. Vanshika, what you have written beta ECO, I have not understood. I have already explained ECO is the short form for electronic commerce operator. So what does 5.5 or 9.5 says? For some notified services, it is neither the supplier nor the recipient. It is the online app which is the person required to pay tax. Prajjot beta, I have already mentioned JioMart as per me is not covered because somebody else had mentioned JioMart. You were not attentive at that time. I've already said JioMart will not be covered because what you are ordering from JioMart, Prajjot? Are you ordering goods or service? You order goods or service beta from GeoMart. Please keep your minds open. Concepts are very simple, rather they are interesting. They are real life scenarios, but please be attentive. Please keep your minds open. Yes, Manisha. So only those apps which are providing you service are covered, but that also not every app, only the notified. Please read this. What it says, only some specified category of services. So not all services. What are the specified that you'll get to read? Huh? Can be safe. Gold came under this. Sorry. Akhila beta, doctor giving service online has nothing to do with 9(5), because your question is whether it is taxable or not. It will be taxable or not. Answer is it is a supply, but for the time being, doctor services are made exempt. So there is no question of it being covered under 9(5) because it is exempt. Gayatri beta, delivery of goods is service. But what is covered in 9(5) when the online app is required to pay tax when the tax is on sale of service? When you are purchasing goods from app, the sale of goods is happening through app. So on those goods, 9(5) will not apply. Definitely the app, whatever delivery charge the app is levying or the convenience fee app is levying, there is GST on that, but that is covered in 9(1) itself. That is, the supplier itself has to pay tax. But how come network services like Wi-Fi or mobile data are provided by online app? Which online app is providing you this service? Are you purchasing this through online app? Diksha beta, skin care app, hair care app like Tyra Cure Skin. Yes, if you are only taking their services, not goods, but generally they sell goods. So once they are selling goods, they are not covered in 9(5), Diksha. Yes, Manisha, I've already said there is a list. So once we go below this, you will find the list also. But before that, let me complete the section. Provided further that the e-commerce operator, if it does not have physical presence in India, taxable territory means India, any person representing such e-commerce operator for any purpose in taxable shall be liable to pay tax. Now this paragraph proviso first and second are made for foreign e-commerce operator, like Ola app is foreign app. Sorry, Ola and Uber. It is a US app. So there are so many apps which are outside India. So for them, both the proviso says the e-commerce operator, if it is not present in India, it will have to appoint a person, and that person would be representing the e-commerce operator, and that person will be paying the tax on behalf of the e-commerce operator. Provided further that where an e-commerce operator does not have physical presence in taxable territory means India, and also he does not have a representative in the said territory, such electronic commerce operator shall appoint a person in the taxable territory for the purpose of paying tax. So wherever these apps are foreign apps, they will have to appoint a person in India. And then this is the section 5 list. Now we go to the decoding of these sections. We go to some detailings which are not there in the section, but which are given separately. So firstly, they have defined reverse charge is defined, which simply means reverse charge means those scenarios where the liability to pay tax is on the recipient. So the definition of reverse charge is simple. Liability to pay is on the recipient. So there are two types of reverse charge, 9(3), 9(4). In 9(4), the compulsion is supplier should be unregistered and recipient should be registered. Only those cases will fall in 9(3). 9(4). 9(3) can cover any cases. Now we come to that list where the 9(3) cases are given. But before I take you to the list, let us have our break. We'll go in for a break, and after the break, we'll go to the list. But before that, let me take your questions. Whether Netflix or Prime are not covered. OLX is not covered because you sell goods through OLX. I am teaching you through study app. You are correct, beta, but right now study apps are not covered in 9(5). And anyways, education is exempt, so there is no question of tax also. Beta, SCM, I have given the short form. Full form, I am making it a special charge mechanism, right? Spotify app, yes, but again, Spotify is right now not covered in 9.5. So 9.5 is only covering few services. So Spotify example is correct, but it is not covered because it is not given in the list. Yes, Aditi, education services are exempt. Medical, education, all these are exempt. We'll study that in the next chapter when we go to the exemption chapter. No, Gambira, wherever there is tax, generally you are allowed to pay tax using both your input tax credit and balance in cash. For few people only, there is a restriction that they cannot utilize their ITC, but for all others, they can utilize their ITC also. Fine, students. So now, after this, we have to now we have studied the whole section, the charging section we have understood. 9.1 is the main charging section. 9.2 is deferring the levy on 5 petroleum products to a future date. 9.3, 9.4 are talking about cases where recipient has to pay tax, that is the reverse charge. And 9.5 is saying cases where the online app has to pay tax, which I have named as SCM. Law has not used the word SCM, but just to give it a name, I've used the word SCM, that is special charge mechanism. Now we are going to study the list which is covered in 9.3. No, Manisha, but we cannot use FCM because FCM is where supplier has to pay tax. So where supplier pays tax, it is called as forward charge mechanism. So I cannot use FCM for 9.5. So either you don't use anything, call it as 9.5, but don't use FCM because FCM is a term used whenever supplier has to pay tax, which is happening in 75% of the cases. Sridhar beta, we will see the list what is covered in 9.5. Ola Uber is not covered in 9.4. Ola Uber is covered in 9.5. Yes, Aditi. So I'm using the short form SCM for ECO. That is for 9.5. So 9.5 cases will call as special charge mechanism. 9.3, 9.4 will call as RCM, that is reverse charge mechanism. And remaining where the supplier has to pay tax, which is 75 to 80% of the scenarios, we'll call it as FCM, that is forward charge mechanism. So forward charge means supplier pays tax, reverse charge means recipient pays tax, and special charge means none of them pays tax, but some other person pays tax who is the e-commerce operator. Fine? Sure. So we take a break, and after the break, we come and we start studying the list of what cases are covered in 9.3 RCM. Yeah, 15 minutes break. So till now we understood that 9 of CGST, SGST, 5 of IGST are the charging sections. And in these sections, you have some parts. Subsection 1 is the main charging section, and then 2 defers the levy for 5 petro products to a future date, and the remaining ones like subsection 3, 4 are for RCM, and 5 for the case where the e-commerce operator, that is the online portal, has to pay the tax. Now for this 9.3, we have the notification which provides as to what are those services on which tax will be payable by the recipient and not by the supplier. And that list for services is what is covered in your syllabus. You have a list for goods also. So A is supplies of goods which are covered under 9.3 RCM, but it is not part of your syllabus. So it is not given over here. But the list of supply of services which is under RCM is part of your syllabus, and it is what is covered here. Now in that list, the first service is of goods transport agency. But before you understand this service, we have to understand something else relating to this. So now I'm giving the heading as RCM under section 9.3, and we are going to discuss the specified services. Now first is GTA. In simple words, it is a goods transport service. What is GTA? GTA stands for Goods Transport Agency. So first I'll tell you practically what it is. So on road, we have two types of transport. One is passenger, one is goods. Passenger transports are the bus, auto rickshaw, the cabs. This is where we transport or where we move from one place to another. And the second is the truck, tempos, trailers, where goods are being taken from one place to another. So the first entry is for goods. Now, before I explain you this entry, I will give you the steps which you have to check. First is you have to check whether it is a GTA, GTO. Second, you have to check whether GTA service is exempt. Only when you cross these two barriers, then for remaining services, firstly, it should not be GTO, it should be GTA. And secondly, it should not be covered under exemption. For remaining services, you check RCM applicability. Now, how do you check? So interestingly, now the position in law is the law has given option of forward charge and reverse charge. Option 2 GTA. So the GTA is given the option to decide whether or not it wants to be covered under RCM. Means what? Whether the tax of his service will be paid by the recipient or he himself wants to pay tax. Under forward charge, he is having two options. 12% with ITC, 5% without ITC. And if it is under RCM, it is always 5%. Now, what is all this? Let us understand. So these are the pointers that you will have to check before you decide on the GTA service. So let us start one by one. GTA. GTA covers, in simple words, goods transport. So as I said, by trucks, by lorries, by tempos, whenever you send goods from one place to another, so that goods transport is covered, which is over here called as GTA. Now there is something called as GTA versus GTO. If it is GTO, it is not covered because it is not taxable. If it is GTA, only then it is taxable. Now, what is the difference? See, GTO are personal transporters. What do I mean by personal transporter? I have my own personal truck and I am not working like a business. So you want to shift your furniture from one place to another. You want to shift some goods from one place to another. So I do that and I am operating as a individual independent transporter, not as a big business. What is GTA? GTA is like you have proper offices of some transporters. They call themselves as transport companies or transport operators. And they are having proper offices. They are having proper setup. You go and key deposit your goods there. Then they will send it as per your requirement. And generally, these are working intercity or interstate, whereas GTO are working within the city. Now, how law has defined GTA? GTA has been defined as a goods transporter who issues consignment note. So all these things will happen only when it is a proper business. If you are an individual truck operator and you are just asked to ship goods from one place to another, you don't issue any consignment note. So how the law defines a GTA? GTA is that goods transporter who will give you a consignment note whenever you want to transport or ship your goods from one place to another. Now, when we will go to the exemption chapter, you will find that there are certain services of GTA which are exempted. Like when GTA is providing services to unregistered persons, GTA is providing transport of some specific goods. Those are some exempt services. Again, when will you come in RCN? Only when your transaction is taxable. So you should not be exempt and you should be working as a GTA means you should be giving a consignment note. Now, when both these conditions are satisfied, one, you are a GTA, and what you are doing is not covered in the exemption list, then only you will be checking RCM because only the remaining taxable services, I'll add this word, is where RCM has to be checked. Now, why RCM has to be checked? Because the law as it stands today has given the option to the GTA, and this option, the GTA can decide at the start of the year. So right now, we are in the month of Feb. By March, the GTA has the option to decide that next year, whether it wants to be under forward charge or RC. If it decides, if it fills that form, whereby it says that I want to be under RCN, then next whole year, whatever transport service this GTA is providing, the tax will be paid by the recipient. But if he fills the form where he selects the option of forward charge, then in the next year, the tax will be collected and paid by him. Most important, under forward charge, he is further having two choices. If he wants to take input tax credit, the tax rate is 12%. Now, let me tell you, I assume that the amended provisions will apply. What is the amended provision? This 12 has been made 18 from 22nd of September. And I believe this will be applicable to your exams. So originally it was 12. I've not seen the module, so I'll have to see what is written in the module. But from 22nd of September, this has been changed to 18. So first option is if he pays a higher rate, he can take input tax credit and he can set it off against his output tax. And second option given in forward charges, he can pay tax at a lower rate. In that case, he will not get the input tax credit. So this is the whole position about GTA. Now, how is this given in the notification? Firstly, you remember this notification number, the list of RCM where tax is to be paid under RCM by the recipient is given under notification number 13. The original notification was issued on 28th of June 2017. However, this notification keeps on changing. So there is always some amendment going on in this notification. Fine. Presently, what is covered? Category of which service is covered? It is the goods transport service which is covered. Who should be supplier? Supplier should be GTA. Now, who is GTA? I have already told you that the law defines GTA to mean a person who is issuing a consignment note. Now, when you read the exemption list, you will find that this right-hand corner list, if you are not falling in this list, then your transport is exempt. So in short, only when the recipient of service is one of these persons. Now, these are all registered persons. First, a factory which is registered under Factories Act. Second, a cooperative society or a society registered under the Societies or the Cooperative Society Act, or a person who is registered under the GST Act, or any body corporate, obviously, who is registered under some law. Only for partnership, they have given the condition it may or may not be registered under any law, but it should be a partnership. So all these persons, let us call them as specified recipient. If GTA is doing the GTA service for a person other than the specified persons, you will study in the exemption chapter that GTA service is exempt. So only where the GTA is providing services to these specified recipients, only then the service of GTA is taxable. And then comes the point of option. Now that point is explained at the end. So I'll just go to the end part of this below this entire list. See, here 12% is given, but as I inform you, from 22nd of September, this rate has been amended to 18, and I'm sure in your exams it will be 18 only. So wherever you are reading 12, kindly make it 18. So this is the same chart which I have given to you. But as I said, before you come to this chart, you have to first decide whether the GTA is taxable or not. And for that, two things you have to check. One, whether it is a GTA or a GTO. GTO means an individual truck driver who does not give consignment note. GTA means a proper goods transport businessman who is operating multiple trucks and he gives you a consignment note. Second, your goods transport service should not fall in the exemption list. If it is falling in the exemption list, there is no question of forward and reverse charge. So this is about the first entry, which is under RCM. Yes, students, any questions? Tamanna beta, you are asking in case goods of supplier is accidentally or due to fire disposed. Beta, no GST. It comes under insurance. Passenger trains are also included or not. See, we are not talking about passenger transport beta. So when you are when you are traveling by train, anyways, it is covered in a separate entry. It is not covered here. Sir, income of GTA means what? Why Vedant you are talking about income? Are we studying income tax? We are studying GST. So it is freight in your accounting language. The freight charges that you pay for transport of goods, that is what is covered over here. Aditi Verma. So FCM is supplier pays tax, RCM is recipient pays tax, SCM is neither supplier nor recipient pays tax. It is the online apps. You are right. Perfect, Aditi. Sir, in RCM paid 5% by recipient, can he claim ITC? Recipient can always claim ITC. Surinder. In any option, whether 12%, which is now 18%, or 5%, recipient will always get ITC. The question is whether the GTA gets ITC or not. That is where the answer is GTA does not get ITC. Manisha, I think I've already given you example of GTA. GTA means a truck operator. You see so many trucks running on the roads. They are carrying goods from one country, one city to another, or one state to another. They are all GTA. Yes, Aditya, 12 is changed to 18. It is applicable from 22nd of September, and I'm sure it will be applicable to your exams. Beta Minu, why GTA will fall in ECO? ECO is a 9.5. Are we studying 9.5 or 9.3? But we are studying 9.3 list. So why you are talking about Minu 9.5 ECO? ECO is 9.5. Yes, it is covered in 9.3. Correct. Anil, sir, as you said, consignment note is mandatory for GTA service for applicability of RCM. Could you please elaborate this? But a consignment note is a note. See, you will understand this when you will do articleship. That is why articleship is very important. Whatever you are studying in law right now, it appears to you as a plain theory. Why? Because you have not seen these things practically, because you all are not part of any business activity. But the moment you join articleship, you will see all these documents practically. Now, what is a consignment note? Whenever you want, let us say you are staying in Chennai, you want to send your goods to my place, which is in Nashik. You go to a transporter's office, you give them the parcel and tells them, I want to send this office to Vishal Podar sir's address, which is in Nashik. He will say, okay, sir, I will give you a chitti, I will give you a note. What is this chitti or note? It is a proof that you have submitted the goods to him, and it carries all the details. Consignor, your name; consignee, my name; details of goods. So that tomorrow, if there is any loss of the goods, you have the claim that, okay, yes, I have given the goods to this person. That note, which gives the proof that you handed over the goods to the transporter to be transported to me, that note is called as a consignment note. Dhanalakshmi, sir, recipient of service in the list of one is exempt. No, if you are falling in that list, it is taxable. Exempt is not covered here. So other than who are covered in the recipient list, if you are supplying or if you are doing the GTA service for them, other than the one who are covered in the recipient list, then only it is exempt. Anil, e-way bill is a different concept. Consignment note is a different concept. Consignment note is the proof that these goods belong to you and you are giving the goods to the transporter to send it to me. That is consignment note. E-way bill is a document of GST which is created on the GST portal. E-way bill is created to inform the government that you are sending the goods from this location to this location. So e-way bill is a GST document. It is a document to sort of inform or take permission of the government before you want to send goods from one place to another. Vedant, you are saying like delivery e-cart. I don't know better what it is. It may be a name of a company, but you are right. If it is a name of a company which runs trucks, then it is GTA. You are right. So you are okay. That's why I'm saying I have not seen this delivery e-cart. If it is transporting goods, if it is having trucks, vans, where it transport goods, then it is covered in GTA beta. So students, I hope first entry of RCM is clear, and this is the only lengthy entry. Lengthy means lot many names are given, otherwise it is simple. Now we come to second transaction, which is under GTA. Again, for second transaction, what is under GTA is, I will write in simple words, lawyer's service. So the law says legal service. I am writing lawyer service so that it is easy to understand. So you all have seen lawyer or at least heard about lawyer. So whenever you take services from lawyer, again, there is exemption. Lawyer giving services to non-business entity or small business entity, it is exempt. Now we talk about other taxable services. Other means other than above. Now for this, there are two possibilities. Is the lawyer a senior advocate and giving services to other advocates? This service is under FCM. All other cases, this is under. So again, for lawyer service, same like GTA service, you have to first check whether it is exempt. Now, when lawyer service is exempt, if the lawyer is giving services to whom? To non-business entities like individuals, HUF. So we go to lawyer even for some personal matters like it is a marriage dispute, dispute between two brothers on some property, dispute between parent and children on some property or on anything. So where it is a non-business entity or it is a small business entity. Now what is small and what is large, that you get to know when you go to the registration chapter. So for registration, some limits are specified. If your turnover is below the limit, you are a small business entity not required to get registered. So if you are a non-registered entity, that is you are a small business entity, or you are a non-business entity, means you are not doing business. So wherever lawyer provides services to such entities, it is exempt. Remaining services of lawyer are taxable, and in that, if you are a senior advocate and you are giving service to other advocate, this is under forward charge. Forward charge means the senior advocate is the person liable to pay tax. In all other cases, the lawyer service has to be paid by the recipient of the service, which is a business entity. So this is what is about lawyer service. So see what is given. Service is provided by either an individual advocate, including a senior advocate, or a firm of advocates by way of legal service. What is legal service? That is defined. So legal service means service which is provided in relation to, now what type of service? Advice, consultancy, or assistance in any branch of law. Now, what do you mean by branch of law? So there are different laws. It may be taxation law, it may be company law, it may be partnership law, it may be contract law, it may be patents law. So any subject of law, if you are providing what? Services like advice, consultancy, or even representation. What is representation? So generally we have seen advocates in movie who fight cases for you. That is what is the representation service before courts or tribunals. So these are the services of lawyers. The service provider should be individual advocate, including senior advocates, and the recipient should be a business entity. Because as I have already said, if it is given to a non-business entity, it is exempt. Plus, this business entity should be a big business entity whose turnover crosses the registration limit. Only then it will be covered under RCM. Otherwise, it is not covered under RCM. Then comes another service wherever you go to a tribunal. So students, what are tribunal? Tribunals are like courts. So you can say these are semi courts. These are smaller courts. Now, when a tribunal is providing service, again to whom? To a big business entity, then it is taxable, and it is taxable under RCM. If the tribunal is providing service to a personal, to an individual person, or to a small business entity, same like lawyer, it is exempt. So there is no question of RCM. Virashri, I never mentioned anything on war goods in GTA. I simply said there are certain goods, the transport of which is exempt, that you will study in the exemption chapter. I never mentioned anything about war goods. Gambira saying, sir, company lawyer or legal advisor of company, in that case, company is liable to pay tax because it is under RCM. But if the lawyer is on the payroll of the company, so the lawyer becomes employee. And if you remember, Schedule 3 is not taxing services of employee. So where lawyer is acting or working as an employee of an entity, that is a non-GST supply, it is a Schedule 3 supply. Where the lawyer works as a independent businessman, what we call as profession, in that case, the lawyer service, subject to some conditions which we discuss, is covered here. Arbitral tribunal beta means tribunal which are semi-courts. Semi-courts means like you have seen High Court, Supreme Court. The court which is below High Court, Supreme Court are tribunals. Tribunals are specialized courts. So for a particular matter, a special court is designed. Like for company law matters, there is a special court which will only look after company law matters. Similarly, for GST, there is a special court which will only look after GST matters. For income tax, there is a special court which will look only after income tax matters. So when you have such specialized courts which will look after only one particular matter, such courts are called as arbitral tribunals. Yes, consumer courts are one such courts. Correct. Next service which is covered under reverse charge is a sponsorship service. What is the condition? The service provider should not be a body corporate. So body corporate in simple word means a company. So the service provider should not be a company, and the recipient may be a company or a partnership firm. So when sponsorship comes under RCM, where the provider is not a company, but the recipient is a company or a partnership firm, only then this service will come under RCM. Rajjot, I have already mentioned about consumer court. Why you have repeated consumer court, I did not understand. Tamanna beta, if advocate's license is cancelled, he is or she is no more advocate, then it will never come under RCM. So to practice as advocate, you should have the advocate's license. Now, point number 5 is something important. It is the services which are given by government. Now, again, for government students, you will study in the exemption chapter, many services of government are exempt. And again, the services which are given to individual by governments are always exempt. Only the services which are given by the government to business entities are taxable. Again, these business entities are big business entities to whom when the government gives service, it is taxable. Now here, there are two parts. If the service of the government is one of this, that is the list which is given here, in such cases, the tax is not covered under RCM under this entry, like renting of immovable property, then services given by the post office or by the Ministry of Railways, or services given in relation to aircraft vessel or transport of goods and passenger. These services given by government are not covered under RCM. Other than these, whatever are the remaining services which are taxable, that is the services which are given to big business entities, they are the ones only which are covered under RCM. Then comes 5A, here where the government is giving its property on rent and it is giving it to a registered person. Again, this service of government is covered under RCM. So where the government is giving its property on rent to unregistered person, it is under forward charge. Where it is giving to a registered person, it is under reverse charge. Kambira, so what you are saying, what you mean to say, renting of immovable property, is it your question? What is your question? Please explain. Kambira, what is your question? Please explain. So, but why it is a doubt? It is clear-cut written, na? Renting of immovable properties under RCM. But in case of government, there are two parts. If the government is giving this renting of immovable property to a registered person, then only it is under RCM. So if the government is giving the property on rent to an unregistered person, it is under forward charge. If it is giving to a registered person, it is under reverse charge. So renting of immovable property by government to registered person for a reverse charge, to unregistered person, reverse charge, forward charge. I repeat, government giving property on rent to a registered person, it is under RCM. To an unregistered person, it is under forward charge. Okay. Now, other than government, when people like you and me are giving property on rent, now in this case, what they have said, if you are giving a residential property on rent to a registered person, it is under RCM. So first they are talking about registered person in case of residential property. And then second point says service by way of any immovable property other than residential. So here they are talking about commercial property. And in case of commercial property, what is the condition? Supplier is unregistered and the recipient is registered. But in case of renting of residential property, supplier may be registered or unregistered, but the recipient should be registered. So this is how they have bifurcated the renting of immovable property by person other than government. So I will explain to you this with the help of this chart. I will add one more point here. So arbitral tribunal also same rule applies like lawyers. So renting of immovable property. Now in this, by government. So who is giving on rent? If government is giving on rent to a registered person or to unregistered person. URP is unregistered. This is under RCM. Now, if it is by others, then you have to check whether it is residential property or it is commercial property. Now, if it is commercial property, if it is given by unregistered to registered, it is under RCM. If it is given by registered to anyone, it is under FCM. Whereas for residential property, if it is given so students, this is the RCM provisions relating to renting of immovable property. I hope this is clear. Any questions, students? Perfect. Great. Next, what example I was giving? So where services are given by directors. So it is the service of a director. So who is the supplier of service? Director. Who is the recipient of the service? Company. So the tax is payable under RCM. Second example also I had given the services of insurance agent. Who is giving the service? The service is given by the agent to whom? To the person who is carrying on insurance business, in simple words, to insurance companies. Similarly, I hope you know that banks have a recovery agent. So whenever banks give loan and people are not repaying loan, they send these people who are their recovery agent. So who is the service provider? The recovery agent. And the service provider is providing service to whom? To a banking company or financial institution. Again, the service of recovery agent to a bank is under RCM. Good. Now this is interesting. This is what we know personally because we are using this services of music composers. So using means you are enjoying it. So there are music composers who compose various music tunes. Then you have photographers and you have artists. Now, who are these people providing service to? They are providing service to a music company. So music composer is composing music for whom? For music company. Or these photographers and artists, they are acting and they are doing for whom? For the producers. So whenever a music company is hiring a musician, taxes payable under RCM, or wherever a producer is hiring any of the artists, so artist includes everyone, singer, dancer, hero, heroines, everyone. So whenever they hire them, whatever are the fees paid by them, the tax is payable by the producer under RCM. Correct? You know what you're writing RCM, FCM, I'm not getting your point. So services relating to movies where the producer is paying to the artist, it is under RCM. Or where a music company is paying to the music composers, it is under RCM. Yes, artist can be anyone. So anyone means like the actors, then you have the directors, all these are artists. So producer of a movie pays to them only. Now, interestingly, there is another entry after this that is for author of books. Now, we all know that authors are those people who write various books and then these books are published by the publishers and publishers give royalty to the authors. Now, in this case, similar to GTA, here there is an option. What is the option? If the author wants, he can take the option of paying tax under forward charge. In such cases, tax on the royalty services given by the author to the publishing company will be liable to be paid under forward charge. But this is option And if the author wants to exercise this option, then what are the conditions? Firstly, he should have taken registration under the GST Act, and similar to GTA, it should give a declaration in the prescribed form. What is the declaration? That he wants to exercise the option to pay the GST under forward charge. Only if he has given this declaration. Further, the same declaration he should write on his invoice also, that I want to pay tax under forward charge, only then the tax is payable under forward charge. Further, the author has to comply with all the provisions of the Act as if the author is personally liable to pay tax, and he cannot withdraw this option within 1 year from the date of exercising the option. So for GTA, the option is financial year wise. The GTA can change the option in every financial year. But in case of author, the option is for complete 1 year. So if I exercise the option today as an author, it will change only after 1 year. So for authors, it is not financial year wise, it is year on year. But for GTA, the option is financial year wise. So students, we stop over here. So we have discussed some of the services which are under RCM. I will request you all to kindly read the entire module up to this point. That is up to point number 9A, right from page 1 up to 9A, so that if there are any queries, we can discuss it in our next class. So with this, I conclude today's session. I hope, though the session was slightly technical, you would have understood it. But for retaining it further, it is important that you are revising all these points by reading the module. So thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, students, you will have to remember these names. You have to remember the conditions where and which services are under RCM, because that is one of the questions asked. Fine, students. So thank you all. Thank you very, very, very much. Thank you, Manishji. Good night. Done, sir. Good night.